Excellent. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our June coffee morning. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Samantha Grant. I'm a director of the IAB, and I will be your host for today's session. Before I introduce our speaker for today, I just wanted to make everyone aware of a new initiative that is being driven by our ambassador group named Summer Socials. Summer is here, bright and cheery. So during the summer months, or that we hope will be the summer months, the IAB ambassadors are encouraging fellow members to meet up in your nearest city. Now, obviously, we won't cover off every single city, but the IAB is a national organisation, so we do have members all over the place, and I know it's always nice to meet up in real life. So this initiative is a chance to make real life connections, get together, share challenges, just have a chat, celebrate some wins, especially if you work on your own. It's always nice to tell someone if you've had a good day or if you've had a bad day. So swap around insights and ideas and just build friendships and build contacts. It can be very disparate. And it was an idea that was generated in our ambassador meeting. So what I will be doing in order to try and activate this, because as you can imagine, it could get quite complex, and our ambassadors are directing this initiative. So I'll be sending out an email to all members detailing the ambassador contact details and their closest city. And if you'd like to meet up with other IAB members and there's an ambassador close by to you, then make contact with that ambassador and agree the arrangement with them. It's just it's basically, we are there facilitating getting their details out there so you can make contact. I'll send a couple of emails out just so people don't miss them. And I'll also put the details in the newsletter, which will be out next week as well. So that's just something to look out for. We can see how this goes and how it develops, but some of you may find it quite useful, and also nice just to meet up with like-minded individuals as well. So I do hope you make use of that. Also, just a reminder that Sarah is the guest of KPM. So KPM, as you all know, is an IAB member benefit. She'll be speaking on a webinar for them tomorrow, and she'll be talking about the practice scalability framework. Obviously, the framework is kind of embedded into a lot of our content now, but she will be doing a presentation on, about the framework, how you apply it to successfully grow your business. So for those that haven't seen or heard this before, I do recommend, it's worth a watch. So please do register. There have been ads going out on IAB socials with the link. I think it's around 11 o'clock tomorrow. So definitely worthwhile the time. So now on to our speaker. So today we have just one speaker, and that is Chris Downing from Sage. Many of you will know Chris, I know that, and some of you have already attended the recent Sage MTD-led roadshows, of which I think we have exclusive new dates, which he will be sharing with you. And the reason why Chris is here is that many of you have fed back about how extremely useful the Sage content has been on MTD. So today, Chris will be giving us a condensed version of this. The objective of the session is for it to be, useful technical information that you'll be able to go away and apply, and also hopefully answer some of those questions. So with less than a year to go, are you MTD ready? So Chris, I will pass over to you. I'm sure you'll be on it, but I will keep an eye on the time, as I mentioned before, to ensure we have enough time at the end for questions. But obviously, as usual, everyone, put questions in the chat, and between Chris and I'm sure we will be able to get through them. So over to you, Chris.
Chris, I think you're muted.
Right, I've now got control back. I can unmute myself. Thank you. That's better. God, I've never been able to talk. So this is an interactive session, okay? I'll talk, but you can actually ask any questions you like. So I do have the chat open, and it could get quite busy, so I'll do my best to actually manage that and bring that into content. So for those who don't know me, my name's Chris Down, Director for Accountants and Bookkeepers at Sage. I've been at Sage just over 7 years. Prior to that, I was an accountant by trade for nearly 20 years. So what my role at Sage, I don't know, that's a really good job. I don't look after anything, don't own any products, don't look after any people, but I do think about strategy, technology, legislation, and trying to bring it to life. So when we think about technology and legislation, really MTD is that whole mashup of it all. So really what we're going to be covering over the next really 50 or so minutes, and it will be an awful lot of content, is really everything which you need to know to actually do something about MTD. Whether it's the legislation, it's thinking about those thresholds, it's considering what a digital record is, to give you, let's say, confidence in terms of it's not a set of accounts or a tax return. Things around, let's say, the types of software solutions you could be thinking about, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Considering, let's say, the tax return of the future, and also the more important thing is, how are we going to price and get paid for this work? So the whole point is try to bring all this information in one place, give you the ideas, which then you can then go in a little bit deeper in different areas. We are launching another series of roadshows, and they're kicking off this week. And actually, we're going even deeper. So we're talking about how do you set up your agent service accounts on those screenshots, etc. So really, this is quite a condensed version of everything which you need to know. So therefore, let's start off, and let's start off with the basics. So when we think about MTD is all about April 2026. It's all about sole traders and landlords with gross income. That's turnover, that's sales, not profit. It's the bigger number at the top of more than £50,000 combined will have to maintain digital records, submit a quarterly update, as well as submit their tax return via software. HMRC is pulling the plug on the ability of sole traders and landlords as they come to different thresholds to actually submit their tax return via the HMRC portal. HMRC is switching off the tax return for those people. Then 12 months later, it's all about April 2027. The threshold drops down to £30,000. And then by April 2028, the threshold drops down to £20,000. What happens thereafter? Who knows? But I think we could possibly imagine that actually MTD is the future phase of all self-assessment. Actually, income tax, self-assessment being dropped. So really, it's a case of thinking about this will be the nature of how things are going. Businesses are becoming more digitized, as well as the fact that though we're delivering MTD in the UK, globally, there's a theme called e-invoicing. And this is the transmission of an invoice from one business to another. It's not an email with a PDF, but that electronic transmission of an invoice. In those other countries, people have been mandated to have software just to send and receive an invoice. However, in the UK, we're mandated to have software to actually do something with that data. It's called bookkeeping. It's called information. So the whole point is we will be in a better stance when the e-invoicing, even when it does come in, maybe 3 or 4 years' time, that will already have, let's say, a theme and understanding in terms of the benefits of digital records for the smaller businesses. When it comes to partnerships are outside the scope. And be honest, I think partnerships won't come into MTD in terms of quarterly reporting because there's only 350,000 of them compared to the 3.6 or 7 million sole traders and landlords, as well as e-invoicing will naturally encourage those businesses to be software driven, as well as most partnerships probably VAT registered themselves as well. So they're already using software. So there seems little need. And then when we sort of go forward, it's all about thinking about those priorities then. So sole traders, to which we're preparing a full set of accounts, P&L and balance sheet, considering how we make that activity slightly easier. And then those simpler sole traders, cash in, cash out, simple invoicing. They don't really have that many transactions, but again, it's actually how do you get them from paper records, Excel spreadsheets to something a bit more structured so we can actually do an update. And then also those troublesome landlords. Landlords have always been the tricky subject. It's not just because it's the fact that they don't see themselves as business owners. They're not particularly good at maintaining records. It's the fact where you've got shared ownership. Bringing that data together and splitting it out can be a bit of a challenge. So when we consider our priorities and we consider where we are now and the fact that April 2026 is coming down really, really quickly, we only have, 201 working days to go. We've got to fit in our day jobs, PLMDs coming along, payments on account, regular drudgery of payroll and CIS returns. We've got year-end accounts to do. Life is busy, but we also need to put the planning in place to actually make sure MTD is successful for us as business owners, but also making sure that the clients who are affected in our portfolios are ready. But also, the fact is, when you look at April 26, you think about that big bang moment on the 7th of August 2026, which is the first quarterly update deadline for MTD. That coincides with the VAT quarter, but also 35% of sole traders and landlords do not work with an agent. They're not working with an accountant or bookkeeper. So when they suddenly realize this thing called MTD exists, they're going to say, I don't know what to do. It's the fear of taxes, the fear of HMRC. It's that fear of change, and they will be reaching out to an agent for the very first time. So there are challenges, but also opportunities if you wish to grow your practice and take on new clients as and when. But the key thing is to be ready for them as well. But also it's a case of which ones are affected and how they're coming in. So really, when you think about that first phase, April 26, more than £50,000, they will be mandated based upon the tax return submitted for 24-25. So the year just gone, 31st March, 5th of April 25. So it's done and dusted. The turnover's captured. It obviously needs to be reported, but once that's reported by the 31st of January 26, January coming, then HMRC will definitely know who's in, and they will be written towards in February and March next year. However, HMRC have been dropping letters in the last couple of months. You as agents received yours in February, March time. HMRC basically identified all sole traders and landlords with gross income of more than £45,000 based upon their 23-24 tax return, and then wrote to them over the last couple of months, about 10,000 letters a day. That drop has now happened. Clearly, with the £45,000 threshold, some will not come into MTD because they will be below 50, but also some had inflated turnover based upon basic period reform. So just be mindful, HMRC are now starting to ramp up their communications. They're not going to do TV adverts, but certainly more social media, a few more letter drops, but it's certainly going to be happening because it's a case of had the awareness. And actually, fundamentally, when you think about self-assessment, when you've got 4.5 million tax returns submitted every January, something has to sort of change. This isn't scalable, especially as more and more businesses are becoming unincorporated, because the tax efficiencies is probably better to be a sole trader than a limited company, but also people are just having side hustles. So the whole point is this greater strain on, let's say, the infrastructure, and therefore we need to be in a better infrastructure to deal with taxes in the UK. So just going a little bit deeper in terms of actually that mandation. So when you think about it, we're talking about turnover, talking about sales, other income, and this is what HMRC will be looking at. So they'll be looking at the tax return submitted and those box values on, let's say, the SA 103 or the 105 for rental income, plus also 106 for foreign property income. They'll be taking those box numbers, adding them all up together and seeing whether they come over the thresholds of 50, 30 and 20 over the following years, which is the same sort of exercise you can perform just to validate those clients on your portfolios. But then who's out? Again, partnerships. You've got trusts and estates, taxpayers with the power of attorney, they're not included. And therefore, it's really important to actually understand these exclusions, just in case you have any clients who are fitting those needs. Those clients which have, let's say, who are non-UK resident, they will actually also be deferred until April 2027. So again, it's just making sure you've got the detail and also capture the right clients to come into play. The question always gets raised, these turnover thresholds. So let's just go through a few quick scenarios. So we've got Jenny, she's a sole trader, she's got a self-employed income of just £25,000. So clearly it's not 26, it's not 27, it's going to be April 2028, which she comes into play. But then Jenny has a little buy-to-let. She's generating rental income, gross rents of £14,000 per annum. So you bring the sole traders rather than rental income together, and that makes the £39,000. So obviously it's not April 26, it's going to be in April 2027 coming to play. Then Jenny has a sister. Jenny and her sister inherit a property. They decide to split it 50-50, but again, be mindful that therefore where you are not married, you can decide what that split's going to be. So therefore, Jenny and sis splits that 26 down the middle, that's 13 each. So when actually Jenny brings the 13 as well as the 14 and her sole trade income, she's got £52,000 of the gross income, which then takes her over that threshold in year one. So therefore, going back to Denise's question, it is all about the joint turnover, it's bringing it all together, and hopefully that example on the screen helps support that. So let's think about what we need to do as a practice to get ready. So here's the first step. The first step is to identify who's affected and when. This is all about client segmentation. And personally, I see client segmentation as the most important step of MTD. It's really understanding not just the clients coming into play, but also those clients which you do operate, whether they're limited companies or trusts or charities, to really understand how good are their accounting records. When we consider MTD, it's all about making best use of your time. And if you've got year-end clients, limited companies, or even clients which you're still doing VAT for, and they're not in a piece of software, or you're not using Dexter or AutoEntry to scan the invoices, by applying these tools against clients which aren't mandated by MTD, you will be coming on creating capacity. But also with this segmentation, it's understanding where does this client exist in their, let's say, business journey. If you've got a client planning to retire, put them on a general ledger, a cloud bookkeeping tool, where they'll only see the benefit maybe 12 or 18 months. You need to be thinking of having the right tools for the right situation for that client. And also with their growth, if you've got a client who's turning over 50 now, they have aspirations to be a millionaire in 5 years' time, it's a case of putting them on a piece of software which will grow with them as well. So again, it's really thinking about the client's needs and where they wish to be. But also considering, let's say, what is the compliance approach? When you consider those quarterly updates, what threshold themes are they going to come into play, what year they're going to be. Also, we talk about the beta. The beta is effectively testing or pressure testing the system, give you the confidence in terms of what an update is, and therefore thinking about those clients who could come into play. I suspect most of you on this webinar are actually sole traders yourself. So if actually you're in the best position to actually beta test yourself. But also you may have clients who are already on a piece of software, they're VAT registered, they're a sole trader, and therefore, depending on which software you're using, you literally be able to flick a switch within the software to actually engage the sort of MTD reporting theme and actually participate in the beta to get that experience, what's going on. But also with MTD, it's a case of actually identifying what is the period the clients are reporting to. HMRC will effectively assume your clients have a 5th of April year end, so you need to tell them they've got 31st of March or another non-fiscal year end. So again, these are themes, these are data points you need to capture in your client segmentation spreadsheet. Then also understanding the complexity of these clients, how many income streams they may have, what type of rental portfolio they may have. Is there another agent? Quite often, if you've got mixed portfolios, there could be multiple agents as well, reporting numbers. But also who's performing the work. Is it the accountant? Is there a bookkeeper who's already involved, maybe doing VAT returns? Or is the client going to roll up their sleeves and get involved and do much themselves? Whether we actually trust them to actually get it right, that's another matter. But the key thing is understanding who's going to be doing the work. But also it's a case of what is the basis of accounting? Is it cash or accruals? Again, HMRC will assume your clients are on a cash basis if they're under a certain turnover threshold, which will pretty be much all of them. But what you do need to do within the software, I will tell HMRC whether it's going to be on an accruals basis. So again, that element of accounting is really important to capture, and then also report that to HMRC within the software when you're doing that first quarterly update. But also a case of how good are the records you've got today? What source of income have you got? Is your client maintaining records on paper, Excel? Are they raising sales invoices? Is it a cash book? Are they got a Z reading from a till? When it actually comes to the data processing, are you thinking about doing this daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or at the last minute? All of this needs to be brought to life and captured, because it'll end up grading your client base, not just on their needs, but on their propensity to actually work with you to deliver the MTD needs. But also it's a case of thinking about trying to make life easier for the digital record keeping. Many sole traders will probably have a single bank account. They've got their business, they've got their rental income, they've also got their domestic life in there. And therefore, why spend time and effort coding up Netflix subscriptions and their grocery shopping when actually life is easier if they've got separate pots? It goes back to the good old days, a separate pot for separate businesses. They understand their cash flow. And this is no difference between business and personal. And this is why, again, part of that messaging with the clients to make your life easier for MTD, if you're going to be using software of any shape or size, have a separate bank account. It just makes life easier in terms of the volume of transactions coded up and also identifying mistakes and errors. Then also thinking about the need in terms of actually, let's say, that communication and fees. Identifying how your clients pay you today. Is it annually, monthly, quarterly? What is that breakdown on that fee? What's involved? Is there bookkeeping, data processing? How complex is the tax return today? That will then, let's say, trigger off those conversations of how you actually price those clients going forward with MTD. But also it's a case of that propensity to learn. Are your clients just going to be belligerent to change? They to bring a bag of records in once a year. They're going to do that on a quarterly basis. These clients who do not change or not wish to do so, is thinking about how you support them. And there are ways to support them, which I'll discuss in a moment. But also it's that continuous awareness and training and education. It's a case of where are their clients, where are your colleagues, and making sure you've actually got that right sort of plan in place. Again, as you can imagine, segmentation is all about having that really detailed spreadsheet. But then again, people on this call probably already have practice management solutions. And this is where it's so important. We think about all those attributes, whether it's thresholds or client types, capturing that in your client or practice management solution is key. So from the screen, this is Sage for Accountants, and we provide client management absolutely free of charge to everyone. And actually, as you can see on the screen, you can put all these attributes in place. You can report upon them, segment them. You can create the tasks from the back of them. The whole point is to be able to report upon this and actually have a clear plan and understanding of which clients are affected and when. But the key thing is, how do you make this in one place? Try to remove the spreadsheets, but more importantly, use the value of the software in front of you. But then the next stage is all about setting your client up in the agent service account. So when you think about the agent service account, this is the situation where you're actually linking up your software, your practice software, to HMRC, which basically means you can then visibly see all your clients in the agent service account. The agent service account does not have a client list, and therefore how do you grab that information? That's via through your software. But what this does demonstrate is the fact that via MTD, you will have a richer feed of information. So on the screen, it's just showing you, let's say, put your government gateway ID credentials through, have that digital handshake via Sage, and you bring all the information through all your clients. And just like for MTD for VAT, you could see the outputs, the numbers, the penalties, the interests, however your clients are reported, no matter what ledger they're using. So if they're using Xero, QuickBooks, Free Agent, Sage, you can see all the information in one place. And we've done this for VAT. So in Sage for Accountants, you can see all the VAT statuses of all your clients, no matter what software. And this will be the same situation for MTD under income tax. But also with the agent service account, it's important to appreciate that you need to go and set up each one of your clients in the agent service account. This will take 4 to 5 minutes each one, and you need to validate the names, the addresses, the date of birth, the national insurance number. And for all the trades, you need to physically type in the name of the trade. So if you've got Pete the plumber, if you've got Pete Smith and he's got Pete's Plumbing Services, you need to physically type in Pete's Plumbing Services into your agent service account. If the client has set up a business in the last 2 years, you also have to put the date of, let's say, when they started trading. So again, a few more other data points to actually capture and put within to your spreadsheet. And I've got a window washer outside, so hopefully you can't hear the banging on the window. Demonstrates it's live, it's not an AI avatar. Then the next stage is all about thinking about getting your ledger set up for MTD. So for those clients which you're already working with, who are already on software, it should be a flick of the button. So from our situation, we already know who the sole traders are, etc. So if they're VAT registered or are using any of the Sage products, you're ready to flick a switch and therefore make it MTD ready. And really what that means is the ability to actually enable that additional categorization against the normal ledgers. Because when you think about MTD quarterly updates, it's all about the codes which you see on an SA 103, turnover, total gross sales, that grouped up admin expenses. But again, nice, simple, easy approach. So not really a heavy lift. Then the next stage to be thinking about is actually the types of solutions you can use within your practice. And I think the key thing to here is, one, how engaged are your clients? Are your clients actually going to do anything with software? Are they going to, as I said, if they bring in a bag of records today, are they going to be bringing in a bag of records tomorrow, not annually, but maybe weekly, monthly, or quarterly? Some of them you can actually probably transition to a more digital method. We've seen this. You've given the right tools, the right mobile device, they can probably take a picture of an invoice and that come into the ledger. But then the other approach is actually thinking about the business needs. Where are they today and where are they going to be in 3 years' time? Do they need CIS, VAT, more complex invoicing? So again, thinking about that sort of spectrum of different services. So from our point of view, we try and make this as easy as possible. So when you think about those clients for above 50, they're more likely to be VAT registered at some point. So you'd be thinking about maybe a Sage ledger like Start, Standard or Plus, and we make it life so much easier for accountants. So literally single buyer subscription as and when you go along, and therefore Standard is like £12 a month and it gets cheaper the more you buy. But then the magic is, when you think about MTD really, when you think about those thresholds of 30 and 20 and maybe less, these clients have, let's say, a different need. It needs to be intuitive, easy to use. And this is where Sage has released a new product called Sage Individual. So all the products there you see on the screen have receipt capture built in. So therefore, though you have auto entry and decks, scanning invoices and putting it into the ledger, when you think about the experience you want for a business owner, they literally want a single device. So therefore, you drag and drop emails, purchase invoice goes in the ledger automatically. But with Sage Individual, it's mobile and browser. It's got invoicing. It's got tap to pay. So why be digital? Plumber turns up, fixes your leak, raises the invoice on the phone, taps his phone against yours and gets paid instantly. And that's the benefits of technology. And really, this is where it's the encouragement in terms of, let's say, why clients should start using tools, because actually know that can they capture information, they'll get paid faster. So again, Sage Individual, £4 a month, but also it comes in a free solution. So the free solution doesn't have invoicing, but bank feeds and categorization, etc. But what this does mean is the fact that for those clients who may literally just have a handful of transactions, but you still wish to be digitalized, you want to see them in one place, edit the transactions and do the tax returns as well. I think that's the other important factor, is the fact that within the bookkeeping tools, you'll actually be able to do the tax return within the ledger. So you don't have to take the data out, but you still have the option to do the tax return separately if you wish, because really, when you think about it, it's all about that efficiency gain. And then last but not least, and here's the secret weapon, is we realize actually you will have clients who will not change. They're not going to be thinking about, let's say, snapping invoices or sharing bank feed information. And this is where auto entry accounts prep is that tool. And this is where accountants are using this tool for their limited companies, their charities, etc., as well as their sole traders. And really, it's just dropping in bank statements, CSV files, purchase invoices, and be able to do quick, fast coding up and producing a set of accounts. So the war stories are a job that took 30 hours and it takes 3 hours. And via that, you'll be able to do the quarterly updates. In terms of Sage 50, which I've seen appear on the chats, yes, Sage 50 is MTD ready, obviously digital record, and we're just building out that experience in terms of actually delivering the quarterly updates as well. Right, all good on those questions. So really, when it comes to, let's say, think about MTD and digital solutions, again, it's think about the solution offering. It's not about change, it's about having the right choice for the client type. And really, that's when it's really important to think about being inquisitive and look at the tools available. And then the next stage is all about thinking about, let's say, what is this quarterly update to HMRC really look like? So the quarterly updates probably create a lot of noise in the profession, and quite rightly, this is the biggest change. We're used to doing a tax return. We're used to what a digital record is. Our clients are probably using digital records. They're probably just Excel, but they're digital. But how do we file information on a regular basis to HMRC? So these quarterly updates, HMRC, again, as I said, will assume your clients have a 5th of April year end. And these are called standard periods. And these standard periods are cumulative. So quarter 2 is 6 months, quarter 3 is 9 months, quarter 4 is a 12-month period, which means that if there are any late transactions or corrections to be made, these will be simply picked up in the next quarterly update. But also, it's the fact that these quarterly updates can actually be on a calendar basis. So if your clients are actually reporting to a 31st of March, it's a case of within the software in that first quarter, you'll effectively via software say, dear HMRC, my client's not 5th of April, they're a 31st of March year-end client. In terms of the tax return itself, the deadline's still the same. It's the 31st of January following the tax year. In terms of deadlines, deadlines are now the 7th of the quarter. So therefore, the first quarterly deadline is going to be the 7th of August. The next one's going to be the 7th of October. And then the next one is the 7th of February. This will coincide, unfortunately, with those very busy VAT quarters as well. But also, let's take a step back. They may be the deadlines, but don't see it as a target. But also, these quarterly updates, they're not a set of accounts. They are not a tax return, and your clients do not need to sign them off. They are, the best way I describe it is like a digital handshake. It's a way of validating your clients are maintaining digital records. HMRC expect and appreciate that they will not be accurate. because nothing's really accurate until you've actually allowed some time to go by and really understand the nuances and flows of transactions, putting those bad debt reliefs in. But really, at the end of the day, these records do not need accruals, prepayments, inventory adjustments, or even getting fixed assets right. The key thing is to be maintaining digital records. But what it does mean is the fact that with these updates, there'll be an estimated tax liability. So therefore, the more accurate the information, the more accurate the tax estimate will be. Appreciative, businesses are seasonal, and also there are certain allowances, plus also income streams may not be reported. But again, it provides that nudge in terms of what the tax estimate could be. But I think the key thing is thinking about how you work with the spirit of MTD, which is digital record keeping, as well as the quarterly updates can actually literally be submitted as soon as the information comes through and it's coded up. So let's just say take quarter number one. That'll be to, let's say, the 5th of July, 2026. The bank feeds come in. You've allowed the software to auto-categorize and code. So therefore, you could literally press submit on the 9th or 10th of July because that exercise has been performed. Now, what has been discussed, because the PCRT guidance has been submitted by the various institutes, is the fact that it's up to you whether you do get approvals from the client. I think the best way to look at this is grade your clients. We all know those clients who are good, bad, maybe not great on let's say reporting everything, and therefore it's thinking about those clients where you need maybe a greater sense of, let's say, protection. You may get an approval process in place. But I think this comes down to your personal perspective. But therefore, really important the fact that HMRC see this as, let's say, a digital handshake, no approvals from clients required, but more importantly, it's focusing on just getting good quality, timely information. Then we consider, let's say, we've submitted or got the information together, what does this update look like? So from Sage's point of view, we try and make this as easy as possible. It's just like an extra report. You can download the PDFs, etc. But again, within the software, you'll be prompted and nudged to say how many days to go and what quarterly updates have been formed. You're able to review the data, drill into the information, do the disallowable as you want to, and then press update. And you can press update as many times as you like. Even though we talk about 4 quarterly updates, those 4 quarterly updates can be submitted daily, monthly, however you like. Because the whole point is, it's the way it triggers a tax estimate. If you imagine, there will be some clients who may wish to submit their dividend income, interest, other source of income to make that estimate as accurate as possible, even though you don't need to. And that is why the quarterly updates, there is no, let's say, barrier to updating as many times as you wish to do so. Then we're considering actually what does the actual accounts preparation look like. So let's just think about these scenarios. So within the software, we make it able to actually file a tax return within the software. So you can probably imagine you're doing digital record keeping, you press update 4 times, and then you can literally just do a tax return in the software if you wish. But therefore, if you think about that timing, you would, let's say, reported the quarterly update on, let's say, on the 7th of May 2027, you have all the records together. But actually, let's be honest, you're going to wait a couple of months. You're going to get some other information coming through. You may have some dividends or another little capital gain on some shares or something. You sort that out over the summer. But then also your clients may say, oh, I've got a bad debt I need to put through. Or they may sort of say, I need to put a provision through against that, or let's say an estimate through, or put another accrual. So you can either, let's say, go into the ledger and update it and press quarter 4 again. So therefore you've got a more accurate piece, or we could go back to our traditional method of how we do work. So if you imagine you've submitted quarter 4 up to HMRC, so in your brand new tax return software, so if you imagine you can use tax software which is different to the ledger. So for example, you could be sending updates via QuickBooks and doing a tax return in Sage. You'll pull through quarter 4 from HMRC, which has been reported from QuickBooks, and then amend, let's say, that tax return software if you want to. Or alternatively, you take your source trial balance, you put it into your accounts prep tool. Obviously, these are for the P&Ls and the balance sheet ones. You spin the wheel on the accounts, do all the journals and the adjustments like you usually do separately from the ledger. You pass that information into your brand new MTD tax return software, and then you submit. So the whole point is there's no real change in way of how you do year-end compliance. It's just going to be digitized. But the key thing is to consider those clients where you can actually save time because you may be able to do more of the work within the ledger than externally. But the whole point is having those options. But also it's the fact that you will be gathering additional sources of information, but also more importantly, it gives us the opportunity to think about the tax return of the future. because every software warehouse out there is having to build brand new tax return software. You cannot use self-assessment software to do your MTD tax return software. So all the software providers are working really hard in the background, not to support quarterly updates, but to rebuild tax return software. Now, the other little detail is the software is not doing the tax calculation. HMRC is. So every time you make an amendment in your tax return software, you put another source of information or a disallowance, or you tweak the profit because the client says, oh, that's a bit too much tax. I need to make I didn't realize I had a stock adjustment. The whole point is those adjustments are performed live when the tax return software. HMRC are returning live a tax return calculation. The software is not doing so. So that's a different approach to how we work, isn't it? Because we don't share anything with HMRC until we've got all the information we've got. But therefore, just be trusted in the process. The tax return does not crystallize until the client has actually signed off in terms of, let's say, that final declaration. And this is just the way it's working going forward. But also with the new way of working in terms of how software is working, it also gives the opportunity to bring to life some of the generative AI. So in terms of, let's say, our view of the world of the tax return, and here's an example on the screen, is that Sage Copilot within your practice management solution will be able to monitor the data coming through, understand what quarterly updates can be ready to submit, but also automatically generate those emails to your clients to chase for those other bits of information, whether it's dividend vouchers or mileage claims or anything else which makes up the tax return. And this is one of the benefits of using AI within a single solution. But also it will then understand what tasks the clients need to perform. So your clients will now get a job to do. They'll get a task, to get a nudge. They'll be prompted to do work. And this is where they'll be able to share additional information, whether it's through mobile, via email, upload from their primary source or favorite document storage. But also, as we appreciate, those clever tools like Dext and auto entry can already scan and read an invoice. Sage Copilot can go a little bit deeper. So if the document is a mileage claim or a dividend voucher or a gift certificate, it'll be able to surface that information and then help pre-populate the tax return itself. So when you think about the time we're spending in that end-to-end in terms of digital record keeping to updates and tax returns, sometimes we get focused on those updates, not thinking about how the tax return of the future could actually be made more efficient because we're able to actually rebuild it from scratch. But really, this is the whole point, is when you think about, let's say, what we need to do for MTD, is certainly being inquisitive in terms of what the software can do for us. So when you think about our priorities, the priority has got to be client engagement. We need to be proactive. HMRC are doing their work. The software providers are creating awareness, but really your clients will be asking, what's this MTD thing? What do I need to do? Therefore, you need to be ready with the who, what, where, and how of MTD. But also with that, maybe an understanding in terms of what you're going to charge for it, or the opportunity to consider repricing your services based upon actually what your current client needs are. Because when you think about a tax return, it comes quite challenging in terms of, let's say, their client's perception of a tax return. What they tend to see is, let's say, tax return to sign and a bill. You don't see all the work which goes in the background to get it ready, and therefore see it as an opportunity to revisit the effort you applied to get self-assessment done. But also it's the fact that your clients will be thinking about what this software is, their technology needs, but also more importantly, it's a way to actually, let's say, encourage and get your clients ready sooner rather than later. But also, for those of you who employ people, make sure all your colleagues, your staff really understand the legislation of MTD. MTD is going to transform how your practices operate. So they need to appreciate maybe the interactions, how they're going to change, the benefits it'll bring to your practice, but also more importantly, they may have a few bright ideas of how to deliver it just as efficiently. So bring everyone on board, but also more importantly, celebrate those wins. Whether it's your first client who starts using software, which you never thought to use software, or your first quarterly update, it's all about getting into the swing of things of MTD. Because as I said, MTD is coming, and also it is going to be our theme of work for the next 3 or 4 years. So therefore, it's all about what the groundwork, the foundation you put into place now. And then when you think about engagement, I think the software providers have their role and their remit, but also more importantly, I see this as, let's say, your opportunity to be really inquisitive. It's more than just a bookkeeping tool. It's think about that whole experience. How do you bring better tools and innovation into one place? But also think about those software providers who can give you all the demos and the training you need. How do they actually take some of the strain off your shoulders, whether it's from a support side or actually even help you on any marketing activities? But also, as I said, it's more than just bookkeeping. we cannot miss, let's say, the benefits and the power of generative AI, and therefore be inquisitive in terms of how some of the software providers are bringing generative AI within their products. Because whether it's, let's say, validating the quality of information, auto-collating something, fixing errors and transactions in the background automatically, yes, scary stuff, but that's the reality of what is actually happening with some products. Sage's, for example. And this is where some of the benefits of generative AI is not just the bookkeeping, it's the payroll and HR, but also in terms of the compliance. It's all about how do you actually properly start to create real efficiency within our accountancy firms. Then let's touch upon the most challenging aspect of MTD. No, it's not about quarterly updates. It's not about bookkeeping. It's the fact that we will have to review, reprice, and re-engage all our clients. We don't necessarily like enjoying having that pricing conversation, but when we've got clients who pay us £300 to £600 per annum, having a conversation about, I may need to increase your fees by 20%, it's not an easy one. Plus also think about software costs. When we were delivering that first series of roadshows earlier in the year, we did once people had gone through the process, and we asked them, well, how much additional effort do you think we're spending on MTD? The conclusion was about 20%. And really the 20% isn't on the bookkeeping, because really the data processing is going to be spread throughout the whole year rather than a single point. But also, if you start to use the right piece of software, you'll gain efficiency. It's all around chasing clients. It's that communication. It's the traffic of communication. And I think this is where some of the pricing conversations will come down in terms of the attitudes of your clients and how proactive and engaged they are going to be. And therefore, if you can start to create new habits and behaviors now in terms of how you share information more regularly, it'll be an easier approach when it comes to 2026. But also the challenge with pricing is we've never really done this before. This is a new theme of work. And also it's a theme of work in terms of actually you will have a lot of conversations. Whether you've got 5 clients, 25 clients, or I know a firm which has 15,000 clients coming into MTD, that is going to be an awful lot of conversations. So therefore, how do you make it scalable, repeatable, and easy to actually manage going forward? But also, here's the scary theme of MTD when it comes to pricing. When you consider that first summer, so it's considering the summer of 2026, it's a hooray moment because of the death of self-assessment. So that 25-26 self-assessment tax return is going to be the last one for that client. So you're going to get the records in. You're going to turn the wheel during the summer and the autumn, hopefully not January. You're going to raise a bill and get paid. That's how it's happened for the last 5, 10, 25 years. When you consider MTD, this is a continuous theme of work. And it's a continuous theme of work that's going to last for the foreseeable future, which means that you need to be rewarded on a more regular basis, not annually. The clients need to go from paying you annually to at least quarterly, or even best monthly, because it's easier for them to understand. But the trouble with that monthly billing, let's just consider that summer of 26. So your clients pay you £600 per annum for a set of accounts and tax return. Let's assume there's no price increase and your clients are now paying you £50 a month from April 2026. Just sit in the seat of your client. They're not paying you £600. They've just paid you £1,200 in 1 year. And it's more than just thinking about the price increase, it's how your clients feel about what they're spending on accountancy or bookkeeping in 1 year. And this is where, when it comes to MTD, it's really important we hit pricing as early as possible. So if you've got clients who are paying you annually now, consider having the conversation of, well, why don't you start paying me monthly from July? So when we get to January, you've already paid me for maybe 24, 25, or maybe accelerating those monthly payments. So they're already basically paying you within the year for their tax affairs. And this is where, when you come to that pricing of from April 2026, whether it's a no price increase or a 10 or a 15 or 20% with a line item of software, it's an easier pill to swallow because your clients are already paying you monthly, and therefore it becomes an increase in that monthly subscription. I know some accountants who are thinking about that pricing of software rather than just bundling it in the service. Get your clients to pay for all the software upfront at the beginning of the year. Software providers naturally increase their prices maybe once a year, and therefore you can actually build that headroom already upfront. But also it's the fact, the realization, some clients will leave you, some clients will move to another provider, and therefore that messing around of subscriptions during that transition can be tricky. So therefore, mitigate the risk. Get your clients to make sure they're paying you up front. Make sure your clients are paying you regularly. But also if they're paying you regularly and that scope of work changes, so therefore you may start doing more work than planned, at least you can start to increase that monthly subscription. So let's start thinking about pricing of MTD. Now, pricing for MTD, we in our roadshows and our events, we really break this down. But I think just on the screen for the few minutes we've got, let's just give you some clues in terms of how you can do so. So when we think about MTD, there's a starting point. And that starting point is the setup and training, whether that's showcasing what software needs are, getting them used to the software, getting them to do some data processing. That's a value exchange. That should be billed for. Some clients you may be bringing, moving from one piece of software to another or bringing opening balances. That's still effort. So just be clear in terms of what you're going to build for that effort. When you think about that quarterly update, yes, it is pressing a button on screen. But actually, with that button on the screen, what is the review process? But also, your clients are paying you for an event. So therefore, whether you have a review process in place or not, again, have a price for actually doing the quarterly update button pressing. Then when you think about the spirit of MTD, it's maintaining digital records. And therefore, there's data processing, which is as simple as you have some transactions. They have been categorized. Well, that's MTD in a nutshell. But then actually, some clients will be more complex. They may have more transactions to process. So again, the bigger the client, or maybe the more complex or volume-wise the client transactions are, they should be billed accordingly. Some clients will have more than a single bank account. They may have bank loans. They may have credit cards. That they all take time to reconcile. And with that, they should be charged accordingly based upon the complexity or depth or richness of their bookkeeping records, their primary bookkeeping records. And when we think about bookkeeping, bookkeeping is a valuable service. Accruals, prepayments, inventory adjustments, making sure fixed assets are right, the depreciation is calculated. Don't give that away on a quarterly basis. That's something which you do at the year end, but the clients may see value for that being done on a more regular basis because they may be a growing business and really want to understand the business performance at the same time or drive a more accurate tax liability. Therefore, think about these phases of work, these themes of work your clients can buy into, but don't just give it away on day one. And then we have the tax return. So again, some tax returns are more complex. They may have additional sources of external income which need to be reported upon. But also, some clients are a bit more tricky, aren't they? Some will always query that first tax estimate, and you'll end up having 3 or 4 different drafts until you actually press submit. And therefore, those clients who always go through that rigmarole, charge them accordingly. It's no different to having to redo a payroll. You charge your clients for it. So you have to redo the tax return because another late piece of information. Again, how do you build that into your pricing matrix? So within Go Proposal, we've actually built a whole MTD module, which basically breaks down all these themes. So again, it's all about how you have those conversations in real time with your clients, think about the price which they can have, the price they could pay for in the future, and giving that transparency. And also, when it comes to transparency, this is where the real value drives. Clients always want more, and this is around the tax planning, whether that's what they should do before the year end, investment planning, IHT, you name it. This is really valuable services. Again, don't give it away. Be very clear in terms of what that could cost upfront, and your clients are aware that these services exist in the first place, so they can come to you for your expertise. So as we wrap up this session, and I said it was going to be a fast pace, try and give as much content ideas as possible. Let's think about those priorities, or what you should be doing over the summer. So clearly, it's making sure you really understand MTD. There's lots of little facets in terms of the detail, what a digital record is. We bring this to life. So we've got some really rich content, whether it's webinar or paper-based, combined video content, just that you can consume and share with your colleagues. Then it's considering actually your client segmentation. Again, this is a really important aspect. Do it for all your clients, not just sole traders and landlords, all of your clients. So you really understand how you deliver those services, what record keeping you do, and also how you make certain clients more efficient. Then consider actually what is your plan. You may have a plan in your head, may think about what you need to do. Just write it down, please. Or whether it's on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard, it's just having that plan and understanding what milestones there are, what you need to do. You will add to it. This plan will grow out, but certainly let's just get a plan in place in terms of what you're trying to achieve and why. Then consider actually that communication. HMRC have already reached out to your clients, and therefore, what is your marketing approach in terms of creating awareness? What are you going to do with those first initial conversations on pricing, but also how are you going to see this as an opportunity to actually, let's say, bring your clients in terms of cohorts? You may have capture and coffee events. You may have all your beauticians or nail artists or tattooists in the room at once, where you're talking about how they can do their digital record keeping based upon the types of services they offer. But also, more importantly, whether it's events or webinars or emails or that good old-fashioned conversation, create that awareness is so important with your clients. Then consider the services or the types of software you can use. There's a whole mixture of softwares available. Well, I've got blue writing on mine. And therefore, it's a case of how do you use those? I've never used that tool or two. Then it's actually how do you actually choose what type of software solutions are available? And therefore, it's a case of whether it's records end of the year or proper ledger solution. Everything is available. Just be inquisitive and see what solutions are available to your clients. And then think about that pricing conundrum. All your clients will need to be reviewed, repriced, and re-engaged. Yes, you may be spending 4 to 5 minutes per client agent service account. Think about the 45 minutes you may be spending on every letter of engagement. There's an awful lot of admin and bureaucracy to deal with MTD, and therefore think about how you can digitize and make it more efficient. And therefore, also more importantly, think about how you get your clients to start paying you monthly, if not quarterly, and away from that sort of annual commitment. But then also think about how you join the beta. Joining the beta is a really important aspect of MTD. As I said, if you're a sole trader yourself, you're in a really perfect example because you can just experience it. But also by joining the beta, you get that confidence in terms of what is a quarterly update, how easy it is to press the button, what sort of time is involved. It just gives you that confidence. So whether you want to join independently or work with a software provider like Sage to work hand in glove with HMRC to actually do the beta, it does not matter. I would just encourage you to do so. Then it's thinking about the future and also how we bring all that data together. So from Sage's point of view, with Sage for Accountants, we're literally digitizing every process. And I think this is the whole point with MTD. What aspects of admin within your practice can you make it more efficient? Whether it's KYC, AML, letters of engagement, these are all digitized through the platform. Managing your client list in one place, doing compliance in the cloud. I'm quite proud of the fact that Sage have been delivering year-end compliance in the cloud for over 10 years now. And when you think about that future, that end-to-end position from ledger to filing, it's all about having all those tools in the right place. But also, more importantly, how do we weave generative AI, Sage Copilot, that digital assistant, which will effectively help you get work done faster. It's monitoring transactions, alerting you with potential errors, fixing those errors for you in the background, helping you sort of deliver payroll quicker, but also more importantly, think about compliance service. It's all about how we use technology of the future in our practices today. But also fundamentally gain the support you need. So within our MTD hub, you've got everything from webinars to blogs. You've got email templates to send to your clients about MTD. It's all about getting that rich guidance and help and support which you need just in one place. But also more importantly, making sure how can you as a practice simplify MTD. Just follow those simple steps. Client segmentation, perform that engagement with your clients, with your colleagues, with your software providers, get a plan in place, really understand what you're going to do and when, and then actually think about that physical onboarding. It's not just about digital record keeping. Yes, you want to get as many clients as possible onto a record, but also think about all those new clients which walk through your door every week and every month. Don't allow them to use spreadsheets on day one. Be forceful in your approach. Get your clients to use software because really that's the future where it's going, as well as join the beta. And therefore, really, it's a case of where do you get additional help and support? So whether you're going to sage.com for MTD or our MTD Hub support page, or more importantly, come and join us at an event. And these events are kicking off from this Thursday and hopefully in a city near you. We have HMRC in attendance. We're going through the detail. We're going through step by step what you do in the agent service account, and also bringing to life in terms of the ledger products and also what the tax return will physically look like as well. So again, it's a really good opportunity to meet peers in the profession, discuss the problems, the challenges, and also how you're delivering MTD. But the key thing is to actually engage with your community and actually have a plan in place for making tax digital. So there we go. I'm not too bad for timing. I'm going to have a quick look at the questions, see if there's anything majorly which came through, but I think
there's
I've
been a
dealt
few.
with those.
I think you have actually, but there's been a few. A quick glance through to see whether there's any more. But
So I'll take the one from Denise. So if you think, so we've got the situation. So we've got Pete the plumber doing plumbing services Monday to Friday. Pete also has a side hustle. He's selling on Amazon at the weekends. That's two separate trades. That will involve a separate update, because if you imagine for every SA 103 on the tax return, that's going to be a separate update. Best practices, you have a separate bank account and a separate ledger, because it's so much easier to separate transactions and report upon it, trust me. So this again, if you've got clients who have everything in one place, a single bank account, they should be charged more, because it's increasing the risk of getting something wrong. But it's also the way that you could possibly deal with that separation within a single ledger is you probably do departmental reporting, take it out, CSV file, use a bridging tool and file. That takes time. Don't allow your clients to do so. When it comes to, let's say, properties, if you've got a client which owns a property portfolio by themselves, whether it's 1 or 20 in a single owned name, you could probably use one of the major products of those. So therefore, Sage will help support finding properties. But when it comes to, let's say, mixed property share, so for example, I own a property, maybe my wife and my sister, my best mate. So you probably imagine there's different properties all over the place, different property shares. This is where there's a solution called Hammock out there. Hammock is ideal for this situation. They really do it well, but also what it means is they can easily do all the splits in terms of the reporting. They do the quarterly updates, and therefore what you'll do is then take that last update, then bring that into the tax return to actually submit. I think that deals with that complex situation. So the whole point is the trades are separate updates. All property are brought together and delivered in a single update, which makes that reporting trickier. What about Manchester? Well, we did Manchester back in March, but I think Liverpool's reasonably close if you want to turn up to a roadshow there. Give an idea of Sage pricing for individual and practice. So again, Sage's approach to pricing of software is really simple. I think bundling of software is archaic. You should not have to buy 20, 30 licenses to unlock discount. That's just wrong. So from Sage's point of view, if you buy a Sage for Accountants, you can literally buy single ledgers as and when you go, as and when your client needs. So from Sage Individual, which is that entry tier for making tax digital, that has invoicing built in, multiple bank feeds, categorization, and tax return built in, okay? So as an accountant or bookkeeper, you can buy that for your clients on your client's behalf for £4 a month plus VAT. And also, the more you buy of any software solution, that comes down. So you could end up not paying £4, but maybe £3 if you've got more ledgers using, more clients using Sage. Sage Individual also comes in a free tier, because we recognize there are really small clients out there who don't need all the complexity. And that's ideal for the clients not doing invoicing. When it comes to, let's say, Sage Standard, which is the bread and butter of, let's say, cloud bookkeeping ledgers, so on a tier with, let's say, QuickBooks and Xero, etc. So again, the full Sage accounting ledger, that's £12 a month, a single ledger, as and when you buy it on your client's behalf. And again, the more you use or the more ledgers you've got, that £12 could come down to £10 a month. So again, really simple pricing, really straightforward in terms of how you buy and subscribe to it. That's pricing. Civil servants who don't. So civil servants, well, they're employed, so they have PAYE in place. So the whole point is MTD is only there for the self-employed and for the rental income. However, when you think about it, MTD is the first phase of digitization of HMRC, proper digitization. So you can probably imagine sometime in the future, let's say post 2020-30, MTD is done and dusted for sole traders and landlords. They'll probably start to mandate is you're a taxpayer and your income is PAYE and just dividends, instead of filing through the HMRC online portal, you now need to use software, and that will probably be the approach in about 4 or 5 years' time. So there'll be a natural progression. Joyce, yeah, looking forward to see you tomorrow. And do the free individual integrated with auto entry? Well, they don't need to, because Sage Individual has receipt capture built into it. So if you probably imagine, Sage Individual, collaborative with the client, they use their mobile device, take a picture of an invoice, it'll auto-recognize it. And this is where, again, you need to be inquisitive with the solutions. So all the Sage solutions have receipt capture built in, so you don't need an auto-entry or DEX, which just makes that experience of digitalization so much easier. I think we're there.
I think we're going to have to, and there's lots of questions, but really positive feedback, Chris. Thank you very much. It was I know it was massively condensed, so thank you very much. I hope everyone found that useful. There's always lots of questions on this topic, so I guess that, any more questions, Chris, then get to a roadshow.
Yeah, exactly. Or go on in LinkedIn or email me, it doesn't matter. But the whole point is there are no silly questions. And the thing is, we just need to work as a profession to think about how do we solve this more effectively? And it's sort of just working together on it.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's great to see so many of you on the call engaged in the topic, and we'll see you all next month. Thank you very much.